Professor Christopher Isike is a professor of African politics and international relations in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of Pretoria. Professor Isike, good afternoon to you. So on the one side, we're asking the US, can we please stay in Agoa and can we have an early extension now? On the other side, our president is at the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg tonight. What does that tell us about our place in the world?
Well, it's important for South Africa to try and ensure that it maintains the benefit it is getting from Agoa. But like the minister was also saying, it also needs to begin to look at what it is able to do with the benefits that it has, the inroad it has made into the U.S. market in the last couple of years since it got into the Agoa arrangement. But to your second question on President Ramaphosa in Russia attending the Russia-Africa Summit. Well, we've seen that only about half of those who attended the first Russia-Africa Summit in 2019 are attending. I think by the last count was about 21 African leaders attending as opposed to 43 that attended in 2019. And there are a lot of reasons for this, and it's not unconnected to ensuring that they have a non-aligned status. But it is understandable why South Africa needs to be at that summit. For one, Ramaphosa was one that led the African delegation to intervene, try and mediate the conflict by visiting both Russia and Ukraine. So stepping back for whatever reason this time, especially when South Africa is also hosting the BRICS summit, would not spell well for it as well. So it's a catch-22 kind of situation for South Africa in this regard.
I mean, in a way, I suppose it also shows that are we trying to have our cake and to eat it? We're trying to have both sides. We're trying to benefit from the very favorable trade terms of Agoa with the United States. We're also trying to have a relationship with Russia.
Well, yes, it does appear so. However, this is something that we must do. The most important thing that must always guide South Africa's foreign policy behavior is the question of its national interest. And if its national interest will be furthered by, aligning and relating with different power blocks, so be it. So South Africa's interest must always guide, but it must ensure that it acts, like I've always said, consistently, in line with its interests rather than acting in ways that confuse even some of its own partners.
Is there much Africa can get out of Russia for the summit? What do you think we should be aiming for?
Well, look, for me, there has been heightened superpower scrabble for Africa between the U.S., China, and Russia, and this is going to last for decades to come, given the our global strategic value. And one of the ways that this competition for Africa is manifesting is what many have called, a summit diplomacy towards the continent. So generally, the gathering of African leaders in foreign capitals, like we're seeing now in St. Petersburg, we saw one in Washington, D.C., we've seen in Paris and Tokyo, and in Beijing, have not done much for us. I think that I personally do have a problem with African leaders having to travel to meet these superpowers. The question, though, is whether they are able to organize themselves enough, to be able to leverage the advantage, that the opportunities that present the continent, giving this renewed interest and competition among superpowers for the continent's resources. So if you ask me, if our leaders are able to go there and articulate and pursue a common position, they should be able to, negotiate a new deal or that will help to reduce the impact of the war on food security in the continent. They should also be able to negotiate for an alternative security arrangement that includes, private security entities such as the Wagner Group. And then talking about, even a program that is like the Agoa, which gives African products free markets, access to the Russian markets.
Professor Christopher Isike at the University of Pretoria, really appreciate the time tonight. Thank you.